it is no secret that I like the PS2. It is arguably one of my favorite consoles to collect for, mainly because it is actually possible to collect for it. Retro game collecting sucks right now. Like, we can all admit that. Basically, anything that's older than the year 2000 is just, like, ridiculously expensive, and just, it's not really fun to collect anymore. Even after that point, GameCube, you're not collecting GameCube. Wait, no one's collecting it. Let's be honest, no one is. And that's why I like the PS2, because literally everything's dirt cheap. There was no, like, really expensive games for it. Even, like, niche games. Even something like Silent Hill 3, which is in my local CX. That's a cult game in more ways than one. That is a very niche game, which probably doesn't have many units out there, but it's well known. You'd think that'd be expensive. It's like 40 quid. And that's the same price that Super Smash Bros. Melee goes for, which is, like, the best-selling GameCube game. It just happens that everyone wants to play Melee. I digress. PS2 is a really fun system to collect for, and I basically was like, screw it, let's just showcase some of my collection, which you can't see because it's off camera. Starting off is Silent Scope. This has no relation to Silent Hill, other than the fact it's made by Konami. It's really like the modern games. This is like a sniper game. It's a light gun shooter. It came out in arcades. I've played the arcade version. The arcade version's pretty fun. The sniper rifle part. There's a little screen for the scope, and you look in that. That's really cool. It got a port on Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast version maintained the little scope by letting you use the VMU. How cool is that? Also, you could use the Dreamcast light gun and the Dreamcast mouse, because it's a shooter, you need to be able to aim precisely. And that brings us to the PS2 version, which it has none of that. You go look at the back, there's no compatibility with anything other than the PS2 DualShock 2 controller, which means you're playing a precision shooter with an analog stick and nothing else. And they sold this! They were like, yeah, that's a good idea. And I got this for 50 pence. Silent Scope on Dreamcast is like £10 by comparison. It's just like, why not? Okay, if you know me, this one's also pretty obvious. Dancing Stage Megamix. Also, Dancing Stage Megamix, Dancing Stage Megamix, Dancing Stage Megamix, and Dancing Stage Megamix. Also, Dancing Stage Fever, Dancing Stage Fusion, Dancing Stage Max, Dancing Stage Supernova, and Supernova 2. I'm not going to throw these ones because these are actually like kind of... It's weird. Supernova 2, this game came out in like 2008. Like, there were Wii games already out like for years at this point. Wii DDR games. So like, this is kind of hard to find. My copy isn't in English. I think it's from the Netherlands. I think it's in Dutch or something. I don't know. The disc is in English, so I don't care. This is like the OG, like, funny CEX game for me. You want to know why? Because of, there's a puppy right here. It's 50p, innit? Like, at that point, you get it once, like, literally, why not? If you have a PS2, you might as well get it. However, my store had free, so I bought free. And then it got more, and I bought more, and I basically just made it a running joke that every time I saw a copy, I'd get one. And eventually, it got to a point where one of the copies, I just took every one of my CEX stickers and just stuck it to the front and made a weird thing. And then eventually, I ran out of space, so I put it on a piece of paper, and I have this weird abstract art looking canvas of CEX stickers. And this is incomplete. I still have space on this to add to. Also, in case nobody knows what CEX is, I assume most of my audience is British, but just in case, I know you Yanks are out there. CEX is a shop in the UK. It sells used electronics and entertainment. So, like, you go there, and there's old phones and video games. The nearest analog is, like, it's not a thrift store, it's not exactly Cashies, but it's kind of similar. But yeah, it's the best place to go to buy games, like used games, retro games, because 5 years ago, the joke was that, oh yeah, CEX price scalps everything. Now, like, okay, sure, GameCube games, they're not cheap, but like, they're about in par with like eBay scalpers. And again, PS2 games are pretty cheap there. Also, Xbox 360, PS3. If you want to get into game collecting, fun and cheap like it used to be, collect for 6th and 7th gen consoles. So PS2, Xbox 360, PS3. Those consoles are still cheap. You can still get stuff for them, and that's good. Anything older than that, also GameCube, also Wii. Also, I saw that CX was selling copies of Cooking Guide for DS for 50 pence once, and they had like 5 of them, and I decided to buy them as a joke. The problem is, I ran out of space for DS games, so now I just have a bunch of extra copies of Cooking Guide for DS just sitting around my room. I have not made back that investment. I've noticed recently that I've started seeing a lot more weird PS2 games pop up in CX, which is great. I do really like that. I saw this one, Guncom 2, and I'm like, huh, is that like a Namco pack-in game? Because on the shelf it looks so close to Guncom 2, which is the name of the PS2's light gun, but I'm thinking, oh, that's what it is. No. It's not. It's a different thing. They put like lots of effort into like, it's a thing. There is no Guncom 1. It is the Japanese Death Crimson OX for Dreamcast, which in itself was an updated version of Death Crimson 2, sequel to Death Crimson, which is like one of the most legendary kusoges like ever. It is like hilariously bad. Hilariously bad, the original. This one is still bad. Like, it is still a kusoge, it is still a shitty game. But, like, in a fun way. Like, this is a good time. It is, like, it's a light gun shooter. It's trying to be House of the Dead, but it's not. It's so much worse. The animations are really janky. It's just quite stilted. It's, like, trying to be stuff, and it's not. The player models are so weird. They're, like, high quality, but then their animations are terrible. There is no dialogue, there is just text, but, like, the actual gameplay is, like, kind of alright. Like, it feels like this was made by people who wanted to make a good game and just didn't have resources for it. You good there, mate? You good? You good there, mate? Okay, we're back. But yeah, Guncom 2. If you see it, highly recommended. This game cost me £4, and it's fun. Also, fun fact about Death Crimson, it's made by Ecole, or published by Ecole, I'm not entirely sure. Ecole Corporation had some sort of fingers in the pie from the start, from the first game. Do you want to know what Ecole also did? Yeah, that's right, Melty Blood. They did Melty Blood. It is the same studio. It is the same name that made one of the worst, like, universally, at least, sort of known by people as a bad game, Death Crimson. They also did Melty Blood, which is everyone's like, this is a really good game, and it had really good production values and graphics, considering it was a 2D fight. Is like one of the best looking 2D fighters at the time. How? Maybe Ecole just published it and like French Bread developed? I don't know. I don't actually know the specifics of it. I just thought that was a really funny little connection there. Next up, Space Invaders Anniversary. Technically speaking, there's nothing wrong with this. It is a collection of Space Invaders games. Space Invaders game. It's Space Invaders and Space Invaders Part 2, which is the same thing, and also a 3D remake of Space Invaders. It is basically just Space Invaders. There is very little content here compared to like Namco Museum, where you get a lot of games, which for a PS2 game in 2003, which by the way was 20 years ago, the time gap between this is for Space Invaders 25th anniversary, and it is 20 years old. Anyway, it is literally just Space Invaders, and a slightly different version of Space Invaders, and another slightly different version of Space Invaders. And they sold this! They sold this at retail, presumably not for full, maybe like £20 back in 2003. But still, that is absolutely amazing, and you can buy this in CX for £2.50, which, compared to other prices, is like impressive. Like £2.50 is actually like, that's half of Kingdom Hearts for Space Invaders. I love this system. I don't actually have anything to say about this game, but like I had to mention it. Super Buster move. Yeah, like I don't really need to say much more, do I? The game itself is fine. It's just got this terrible baby on the cover, and it's also in the manual if you wanted this slightly bigger. So, have fun. Also, for some reason, this game's, like, massive. It's got a massive save file. Like, I had to delete a bunch of stuff on my memory card for my Super Buster Move save file, which is not that investment is not paid back. And I'm probably going to call it there. I don't want this to be a massive editing load, and I feel like this, for dumb PS2 games that I own, I think that's a pretty good place to put it. If you're interested in me reviving this format and talking about interesting games or niche hidden gems or other stuff, ports, let me know, and I will, because this is easy. This is easy content for me. Also, if you liked the look, it's an old camera. Look, it's CRTs. If you like that as an aesthetic for my videos, again, tell me. I will continue. If you thought it was a waste of time and you thought this video was bugged when you couldn't select HD, I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, video's over. Like, comment, subscribe, watch my other stuff, I guess. Bye. Also, the video's cut out